Because the problem with needing closure is it requires you to depend on someone else to give it to you. The need for closure is only arresting yourself. Everybody else is living their life and moving on, but you are stuck, stagnant, because you are waiting for this other person to give you life. Not being able to get that need for closure met has really helped me to learn to do without it. And the amazing part is I've been doing that shit and I'm okay. All right, hey y'all, welcome back to Lex Talk. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Alexis, and the purpose of this channel is to have real conversations about life, love, and relationships. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I started this quote-unquote series on divorce is dumb and going into detail about all the different reasons that I think it is dumb based on my, real life experiences. But actually, I was going to skip this week talking about divorce because I know that it can be a bit of a downer. And although I absolutely want to connect with the people that have gone through or experienced divorce, I don't want to alienate the people that don't want to talk about it because I know that it can make people uncomfortable. But that being said, Dr. Dharius Daniels, Pastor Daniels of Change Church in New Jersey, dropped a fire-ass sermon on Sunday. And I honestly just couldn't pass up the opportunity to talk about it, y'all, because it had such far-reaching implications, y'all. Like, it really hit home for me. And, I like majority of Pastor Dharius's sermons. Like, honestly, between him and Stephen Furtick, I love their messages and I like the way they deliver them. I'm consistently fed and full between the two of them. But, every once in a while you get that word that you didn't know you needed. That was absolutely this sermon for me. Like, it was revelatory. When I'm talking about, it broke chains in my life, y'all. And so, sorry, y'all. We talking about divorce again. And so this week, though, I want to tell you that divorce is dumb because it is contradictory as fuck. And I was thinking about this just before this. For those of you that are Stranger Things fans, and if you're not, you need to go watch it because it is fire. Divorce is like the Upside Down. It is absolutely like the Upside Down. So for those that don't know the show, the Upside Down is it is a parallel universe, but it is the inverse. So it's the people up above ground like you and I, and then underneath it, upside down, is the inverse of them. It is the darker, more gloomy, more despondent reality of them. And so, it's kind of like Us by Jordan Peele, where they had the people up top and then they had their kind of doppelgangers below, except the upside down is actually upside down. And so divorce, similarly, is like the opposite of everything that you know to be right and true and good and pleasant. It is a version of you, but off. It is a version of reality that but something ain't right, And so today I'm going to split my focus to talk about two different ways that I think divorce is contradictory. And the first one is divorce often, and definitely in my case, contradicts your faith. And this is something that I have actually wanted to talk about for a long time. The moment that I started recognizing and cluing in that it was happening to me, but I couldn't because I had not yet gotten to the other side of that conversation, so I was still very much in the midst of confusion, and I don't like to speak on faith things unless I can speak from a place of encouragement, because I'm not about that whole like misery loves company life. Like, I'm not looking to have everybody or other people wallow in sorrow with me. I don't mind company every once in a while, but only if I can then point us to the way out and say, okay, yeah, this shit sucks, but this is where we're headed. This is how we can get through it. This is, I don't want to have people more bound than they already are. Like, no, that's not my goal. And so, all right, so let me get into it. About 6 to 8 months into the divorce process for me. So it wasn't the very beginning, but definitely was still dealing with a lot of some of the initial feelings about the situation. I was tired. I had grown super weary. Divorce is ugly, y'all. Divorce is ugly. And I know that is like common knowledge, but you don't know the half of it. When I am able to say, I will say, but just know that it can be nasty, y'all. Like, I legit thought that my husband leaving me was going to be the biggest blow that I was dealt. But, y'all, I was met with surprise after surprise, after shock after shock. And I was just constantly in this state of disbelief. Like, seriously? Like, this is what's happening? This is what we're doing now? And it's just surreal, when you think that this person that I loved so deeply, that I was married to, that I was in relationship with for a third of my life, y'all. Damn near a decade, that I thought I knew so well, even though, of course, we're always constantly learning each other and all that bullshit, but it was my husband, y'all. Like, I thought I knew it. I'm sleeping next to you night after night after night for almost a decade. I would think that I know a little something about you, but how is it that today, before me, you are so different? And I feel like I never knew you. I feel like I don't know who you are. And that just makes you start to question, like, am I tripping now or was I tripping then? Like, where's the lie? Because shit ain't adding up. The math is not mathing. But I don't know which to believe. The old me, the new me? Is it a combination of both? When did everything that I knew to be true all of a sudden become false? And so, all right, back to the point. See, this is why I have my notes here, because squirrel, I'd be gone. But anyways, 6 to 8 months into this process, I was tired. And I stopped praying. Legit. I stopped praying. And I did not start praying until I heard that sermon. Like, for real, that's what I'm saying. This sermon hit me deeply. And so it wasn't like night and day. It was a lead up. So let me explain it. So I was saved when I was 20 years old, and I didn't grow up in church. My family was like more of an Easter, Christmas, every once in a while type of church going family. So, but my sophomore year of college, I think I was going through a breakup or something, or almost. Me and my boyfriend at the time were probably having issues. And so when I went home for break, I started going to the church that I went to back home kind of regularly, to the point where I responded to an altar call and got baptized. But I didn't, like, I don't think anybody ever, I don't know if anybody asked my name. Somebody probably asked my name to put it on a little certificate, but nobody knew me. So it was very much a surface level introduction to Christianity. But when I went back to school that next semester, a friend of mine invited me to a Bible study. And honestly, the rest was history. I was, Bible-toting Christian after that, card carrying. And so fast forward a year and a half later, when I graduate and go to grad school, my ex and I get together. We start dating, and that was my first relationship since I'd been saved. and definitely my first Christian relationship. And so there was a lot of, I would say, like ignorance in the way that I saw our relationship, like I literally thought that we were bulletproof, because I'm like, shoot, bitch, I got God now and he got God too. Oh, we are good. Like I I didn't even prepare for the possibility of failure in our relationship. It wasn't going to happen. I absolutely thought that we was built for tough, my nigga. Like nothing is getting through this. Period, poo. And so I kind of operated from that kind of level of arrogance where it's like, oh yeah, we had a fight. Yeah, I can't stand him. Yeah, oh yeah, he's on my nerves or whatever. But I always felt like it doesn't matter because we have God, so he's gonna work it out. Like he's gonna make us figure it out. And so, oh yeah. Also, we were also we were doing all the things, of a Christian relationship. Well, most of the things, because we were absolutely getting busy, y'all. But I did feel bad about it. So, still Christ-like, right? Kind of, I don't know. But anyways, we were doing all the things. We were like, if we had an argument, we would stop and pray. We would try to make sure that we got our hearts on the right page so that we would, fight fair. If we had a big decision to make, we were, making sure that we touch and agree. Let's go ahead and bring this to God in prayer. We were trying to make him the foundation of our relationship. We were plugged in to our churches and small groups, had accountability in whatever way worked for us. We were doing the things, and so I was definitely caught off guard when, the D word entered the relationship, because as far as I was concerned, we were perfect, and honestly, I know that's arrogant, of course, to say, and it's not like I actually uttered those words in my mind, but they were absolutely words that I heard other people say about us, like wishing that they had what we had, or wishing that they were us, or, all those different things. It was the picturesque, oh, they're both Christ lovers and they're doing all the things, and so when it happened, this is how it happened. So we had family in town, and they had been overstaying their welcome, and like overstayed. Like y'all was supposed to be gone like a week ago. You're still here. And I was getting anxious. I did not know how to handle that. It wasn't good for me. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to go to my friend girl's house and just stay the night, and I'll be back in the morning, because I just need to kind of woosah, and he was like, wife of mine, you will not. And I don't remember his exact words, but basically he was like, if you go, then we're done. It's over. It felt extreme, of course. And I didn't believe that he was actually looking to cash in that threat. This was long before now, of course. But I took it to mean that he was trying to communicate the gravity of the situation and let me know that this was a big deal to him. And so, of course, I didn't go or anything, but I was still shocked that this was on the table. I'm like, oh, so we got these kind of options now, And so from that moment on, that sentiment was woven into the fabric of our kind of disagreements and arguments. And so it's like at any point, someone could just kind of, grab that trump card off the shelf and use it. So it's like, all right, now we get in an argument. I'm like, well, listen, if it goes this way, then I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm not going to deal with this shit no more. Next argument comes around and he's like, all right, if this happens, it's over, And so now it's just part of the way that we fight. And so I would definitely caution people in relationships, don't pull that shit out unless you're ready to pull the trigger, because once it's out there, once it's in the atmosphere, it becomes 1,000% more plausible and likely, I would argue, because I think that once it's out there, it decreases your motivation to do all the work necessary to make a marriage work, to make that relationship work. And it's because now you have Easy Street sitting over there waving at you like, hey, I'm over here just in case you need me, just reminding you that, hey, yeah, it's available, And so I think of it kind of like when you have to pee real bad and you're holding it. And then as soon as you see that damn bathroom, boy, all of a sudden you can't hold it no more. Like, why is that? It's like when we don't see that immediate relief right in front of us, somehow we find a way to like hold on a little tighter and just, work a little bit harder, and we go a little bit further, And so now here we are, and the D word is all up and through our relationship. And I think with each argument, we got a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And then one day my ex decided to cash it in, and I was thrown for a loop. Like, when he asked for the divorce, I fought like hell for my marriage, y'all. Like, I did the absolute most. And it's not to say that I wasn't like working or fighting for my marriage while we were married before this happened, but when panic sets in and a little bit of desperation, it's a entirely different energy that comes out of you. And so I was absolutely groveling before God, y'all, like knees bloody. I had never prayed so hard, so consistently, with like so much faith than I did at that moment. And, honestly though, I'm super thankful because God showed the fuck out. He walked so closely with me during that time. There were just so many different things that I can say without a shadow of a doubt were God ordained, God led, God inspired, y'all. Like, he was protecting me. And honestly, that's kind of what kind of kept me through that season. So I can't say the specifics, but it was like just before something bad happened, somehow God gave me all the tools I needed to get through that period, to get through that season. So he was literally preparing me for everything right before it happened. And so even though like it felt like all the walls in my life were crumbling around me, it felt like God was carrying me through the debris, making sure not a speck of dust got on your girl, Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire. I'm sitting there, don't feel no heat. Y'all. And that was super encouraging because it felt like he had me. It was so tangible. When God is tangible like that, ain't nothing you can tell me. Ain't nothing you can tell me. But anyways, through it all, that being the case, close as God was, much as I was praying, my ex still left my ass. The marriage still ended, y'all. And that shit fucked me up. Like, you mean to tell me I was praying like this? And I know I was right in the center of God's will for my life. And it still went down like this? Even though I knew better, I know that that's not how prayer works. I damn sure wanted it to. Like, I was like, listen, now is the time for prosperity gospel, my nigga. Like, the harder I pray, the better my life is. Like, that's what I was looking for. But it didn't. And so at that point, my prayers shifted from praying for the marriage to praying for myself. Before I was praying, that somehow he would, soften his heart, move him, whatever. And now I'm like, God, keep me. God, sustain me. God, help me to get through this damn season without going fucking crazy. And so eventually I got this place where I was kind of doing okay, I was doing okay. I had started to make this new life for myself. I was not as sad all the time. But I was still discouraged. It's still kind of walking around like that zombie effect. And it was because I was putting in all of this fucking effort, y'all, to be healthy mentally and emotionally. I was doing all this work to stay afloat and get my life and my affairs in order. I was doing so much just to be okay with where I was. But where I was not where I wanted to be. Like, I was not happy with my lot in life, you know? And so that was when I stopped praying. Because it didn't feel like my prayers were enough to change my reality. Like, I see what happened when I was at my peak. So at this point, what is my prayer going to do if it can't change his free will? It can't change humanity's free will. So what's the point? And so it felt like my prayer life was paralyzed. And you know, I'm a Christian, so I know how to pray even when I don't feel it. So I was very much still able to shoot up a prayer when a friend was going through something and needed that, or every once in a while, like send a prayer out for my daughter. But my heart was not engaged. I'm grateful that God does honor our prayers still, even then. But I knew shit was off, you know. And this sermon changed my perspective. And so Pastor Dharius, he talked about God being the God of both entrances and exits, meaning that sometimes he brings something to a close because it was only meant to be a season, you know? And so that hit home for me because, you know, there's these, you know, like in the Bible, in the Old Testament, when a man would leave his wife, whether he died or, you know, just had an affair or something like that, that woman was basically like discarded by society. You know, so that's why they talk about, you know, caring for the widows and stuff like that, because I guess it's just, you know, the way that society was set up with, you know, property ownership and legacy and stuff. If she did not have a son, she was basically asked out. Like, she needed a man to come and sustain her, really. And even though I, like, don't get it twisted, I don't see modern day women, Christian women, or anybody in that light, but that feeling like after a divorce, I'm just used, damaged goods. It feels like I'm just here waiting for God to redeem what's left of my life so that something can be salvaged, you know, and give me a second chance. It just feels so dirty and unwanted, you know? And so now, if I understand that my marriage was just a season, I'm able to kind of zoom out and see the bigger picture, you know? And so now I can understand that my marriage is just one ingredient in the recipe of my life as God sees it, you know? Whereas before, the marriage was the end of the book. Now I'm starting to see it as a chapter in a series, you know? And that makes the world of difference. So before, when I was thinking that my prayers weren't enough, that my prayers weren't enough to change reality or to affect reality, now I'm thinking, no, they absolutely were. They just weren't realized. Meaning, when I was over there praying for my marriage for God to save my marriage, I think that time was honestly less about saving my marriage and more about building my faith. Because mind you, like I said, during that time, I prayed with more faith than I ever had. And it took that motivation to get me to pray like that. So instead of it being like the end, it was more like just routine maintenance. It was God teaching me something to apply to the rest of my life, which is a big rest of my life, or even the divorce in and of itself. I think that its purpose it's less about the turmoil that it caused in my life and more about the character that it built, because again, these are experiences that built character in a way that couldn't have happened in a different setting or a different circumstances. Now, believe me, I really do wish that he chose a different trait to get, but who knows? Maybe God's like, bitch, y'all weren't supposed to be married in the first place. I really don't know, honestly. But not even getting concerned with that or caught up in that, just thinking of this is just part of the larger story. These are just things meant to build me, pour into me, to be used for the rest of my life. I don't know. That really helped me to see that there was still a reason to pray. And it felt like more than ever, my prayers meant a lot. Like it felt again like God is moving so strongly in my life, like all this time that I felt like I was just kind of in a rut. It's part of what God had planned for my life, like all the lessons that I've been learning and enduring through this time, as tough as they may have been, what it's built in me is invaluable, and to me that is so inspiring, y'all, and I hope that it's inspiring someone else. All right, moving on. The second thing that I want to talk about is divorce being dumb because it contradicts our logic. This is probably only going to hit home for people that are probably similar to me in thought. I'm not sure. Because this is mostly when it feels like your divorce doesn't make sense. So meaning it's not something because of crazy infidelity or abuse. It's really just irreconcilable differences, meaning we fight a lot. We be fighting, which is also a symptom of marriage, So when that's the reason for bringing yourself through this, it doesn't seem logical, because to be honest, a lot of times I think divorce is equally as difficult as marriage, especially when you have kids involved. Like, you still have to learn how to work together with this person, grow with this person. Now you have to do everything that y'all was doing together by yourself. Like, what are we winning? Yes, you do win the opportunity to find someone else and start new with a new set of fucking problems. And you still got to fix your old problems, because they going to come out in this new relationship too, unless you take the time to grow and heal from it. And if you're going to take that time, you may as well do it in the relationship you're already in. But anyways, I digress. And so this starts to speak to the title of Pastor Dharius's message, which was, I don't need closure, which in and of itself is disrespectful. Okay? It is disrespectful all up in these streets. Because for those of you that are like me, for those of you that thrive on resolution and certainty and knowing all the damn details, closure is absolutely everything. But it also is not. And that is something that I am coming to learn and live, especially as a product of this divorce. I am learning how to deal with not having closure and I'm able to see that, okay, maybe it's not a requirement. Maybe I can do this without it. So because I didn't choose this divorce. It was put on me. And so because I didn't choose it, I desperately wanted to know his reasoning for doing it. I wasn't able to get an answer from him, And honestly, I had to do the hard work of healing and grieving without having a why for all of this, And so I learned very quickly the problem with needing closure is that it requires you to depend on somebody else to give it to you. And you just don't have any control over that, Like, you can't guarantee that anybody's going to give you that, And so while they're over there living their life, you're over here stuck waiting for them to set you free to live yours, And so I don't know. As much as it feels like you need to know the why, basically what I have found is the further away I get from the event, the more time that's passed, the more healing I've done, the more I'm able to see growth in the way of not giving a fuck why the fuck, where the fuck, who the fuck, how the fuck. Like, I don't care what he does. I don't care why he did it, because it has no bearing on my future at this point, Once you're able to kind of claim back yourself, and that takes time. It takes you healing through those emotions, and that healing does come with time. There's no rushing through it. For me, I think it was also sped up by the fact that we cut off pretty much all contact outside of my daughter. And so without the constant reminder of him, I had to press forward. I had to learn what it took to sleep at night by myself. I had to learn what it took to keep the household without somebody to share it with or help and contribute to it. And after a while, you realize you've been doing this on your own and you haven't thought about that person. And that contributed to not needing closure at all. Because actually, one thing that Dr. Dharius said was, most of the time, if you do get an answer, you're not going to be satisfied. And that was absolutely the case, because eventually my ex did try to answer the questions that I had initially had. By that time, I was like, listen, I done did the work already, so I really don't give a fuck. But he still did answer them, without me asking. And I don't know if I believed them all. It was kind of just like, okay, if that was the case, well, this could have been done, or this could have been done, or, it just didn't make sense. So seeking that closure, whatever form you get it may not even do it for you, So it's better to just go ahead and start doing the work to move past the situation within your own devices, because again, that closure depends on a whole nother human being caring enough to give you the truth that you're seeking. And that truth still may not make you feel good. All right. So, one of the other things about this closure piece, I actually looked it up online, typed in the need for closure, and there was a whole definition in the American Psychological Association. And, brace yourselves, because they quite disrespectful as well. Says the need for closure is the motivation to achieve finality and absoluteness in decisions, judgments, and choices, often prematurely. A person with a high need for closure will often have a low tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty, and may be attracted to dogmatic political or religious views. Again, how dare they talk about me in front of company, in front of my fucking face? Like, slow down. But that is absolutely me, or at least like my natural disposition. I am I can be rigid, and although I think that it is a great skill set that speaks to in like the workplace, it makes you very very regimented, very organized, very thorough. But in the space of a relationship, usually not that healthy. You need a lot more flexibility when you are dealing with human beings and emotions and all the other stuff that comes with a genuine relationship. And so because I recognize that, I gotta get a grip on some of this shit, I sought out therapy. And the therapy that I sought out was called, it's behavioral therapy. But as I dug deeper, I felt that this specific therapy was right for me. And it's called RODBT, which stands for, it's long, Radically Open Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. I don't know if that's the word, the D word, but yeah, I think it's something like that. Dialectical, diabolical, something like that. Anyways, it targets people that are considered over controlled. So just people, again, that are a little bit more rigid, that prefer kind of structure. That's me. And so that's kind of where that need for closure kind of comes from. It's that desire to resolve something, to have a finite end, and I'll speak to some of the things that they did. The purpose of the class, they had a group class and an individual class that I was part of, and the goal was to get us to learn to be okay in our area of discomfort, meaning when shit is not making sense, logical, because that's where a lot of relationships find themselves, is not necessarily in the logical space. And so one of the things that they did is they made us go to the grocery store and shop backwards. And I know that might seem like a simple, dumb task that maybe a lot of people are able to just do. But for us, every person in that class, it was awful. It was awful because people that think like this are like, there is a method to my madness. Okay? Like, I'm doing this for a reason, because obviously the way that I shop is the right way. Like, they even had a question, like, falsehoods that we need to recognize as falsehoods. And one of them is, the way that I do it is the right way, as opposed to it is a way, and so learning to do things like that kind of teaches us to exercise that muscle of relaxing in the midst of things not going the way that we think in our mind they should. It's still hard, y'all. It is hard. And it also sucks when you have to do it for other people. It's one thing to do it for the person that you really love and you are in relationship with every day, day in and day out, like your spouse. But then you realize that this shows up in your friendships, in your parenting, in your professional relationships. So it behooves you to fix yourself, regardless of what your issue is, for your interactions with humans in general. And so, but anyways, I just wanted to kind of share that, because that was one of the things that I think helps me on this journey of not just not needing closure, but letting go, letting go of some of the things that have started to arrest me. So, even the prayer thing, that is something that I was arrested by and didn't even know. I didn't even know how bound I was or what was binding me. But again, now the next time that something similar happens, I'll recognize it a little bit quicker, and it'll be a little bit easier to climb out of that rut. So anyways, I think I got through all of my notes. It was a lot. I had a lot to say, and I was super encouraged my damn self. So I hope y'all were too. But anyways, thank you guys as always for joining me. And check me out on social media. All social media platforms Yeah, I don't be on Twitter that much, but I still got a handle. is_Alexis. So that's ISS_Alexis. No E, no I, double S. Or you can catch me anywhere that podcasts are found at Lex Talk. So that's LEXTLK. All right, y'all. Thank you. Can't wait to see you guys in another video. All right, bye.